The darkness of space surrounded the Zephyrian research ship like a cold blanket. Captain Veltar stood on the bridge and watched the stars through the main window. His crystalline skin reflected the dim emergency lights that blinked red across the control panels. The ship had been floating dead in space for 3 days now. The engines were silent. The life support systems were failing. Time was running out. Veltar turned to look at his crew. Navigator Kessin sat at her station with her head in her hands. Her skin had lost its usual bright glow and now looked dull and gray. Science Officer Morden was still trying to fix the communication array, but his movements were slow and tired. The other 9 crew members moved around the ship like ghosts. They all knew what was happening. They were going to die out here in the empty void between the stars. The research vessel Stellar Wind had been traveling back to the homeworlds when the exotic matter engines suddenly stopped working. One moment they were moving through space at incredible speed. The next moment they were drifting helplessly with no power and no way to call for help. Morden had worked for 2 straight days trying to get the engines running again. He had tried everything he knew, but nothing worked. The engines were completely dead. Kessin had calculated their position many times. They were in the middle of nowhere. The nearest star system was 12 light-years away. The closest Galactic Council patrol ship was at least 14 days of travel from their location. Even if they could send a distress signal, the help would arrive too late. Their oxygen would only last 6 more hours, maybe 7 if they were lucky. Veltar had been a ship captain for 30 years. He had traveled to hundreds of worlds and met dozens of alien species. He had survived pirates and asteroid fields and solar storms, but this was different. This was just bad luck and mechanical failure. There was no enemy to fight, no way to use skill or courage to save his crew. They could only wait and hope for a miracle that would never come. The communication officer Zarin looked up from his station. His voice was weak when he spoke. "Captain, the emergency beacon is still broadcasting. Maybe someone will hear us." Veltar nodded, but he did not have much hope. Space was vast and empty. The chances of another ship being close enough to receive their signal and respond in time were almost 0. Still, he told Zarin to keep trying. It was better than giving up completely. The hours passed slowly. The temperature on the ship was dropping as the life support systems struggled to function. Some of the crew had gathered in the main common area to share what little warmth they had. Others sat alone at their stations, still trying to find a solution that did not exist. Veltar walked through the ship and tried to keep everyone's spirits up, but he could see the fear in their eyes. They all knew this was the end. Then something impossible happened. The communication array suddenly came to life with a strong, clear signal. Zarin jumped up from his chair and stared at his instruments. The incoming transmission was so powerful it made his equipment light up like a festival display. "Captain," Zarin called out with excitement in his voice, "we are receiving a response to our distress call." Veltar rushed to the communication station. This could not be real. No ship had been detected anywhere near their position. Their long-range sensors had been scanning space for 3 days and found nothing but empty darkness. The voice that came through the speakers was unlike anything Veltar had ever heard. It spoke in a language the universal translator had difficulty understanding, but the words were clear and strong and full of confidence. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the UHS Dakota. We received your distress call and are en route. Estimated arrival in 47 minutes. Veltar stared at the communication panel. 47 minutes, that was impossible. Their sensors showed no ships within 3 light-years of their position. Even the fastest ships in the galaxy could not travel that distance in less than several days. Whatever species these humans were, they either had technology beyond anything known to the Galactic Council, or they were lying. Kessin ran to her navigation station and began scanning space with every sensor they had. "Captain, I am detecting nothing, no ships, no energy signatures, nothing at all." "Maybe their technology is too advanced for our sensors to detect," Morden suggested. He had stopped working on the engines and was now listening to the conversation. With great interest, Veltar opened a communication channel. "Unknown vessel Dakota. This is Captain Veltar of the Galactic Council research ship Stellar Wind. We appreciate your response, but our sensors show no ships in this area. What is your current position? The human captain's voice came back immediately. Stellar wind. We are currently traveling through hyperspace. Our displacement drive allows us to fold space and time. We will be with you very soon. Please prepare your crew for rescue operations. Displacement drive. Folding space and time. These were concepts that existed only in theoretical physics. No known species had ever built such technology. Even the most advanced races in the galaxy could only dream of such capabilities. 32 minutes later, space itself seemed to twist and bend in front of the stellar wind. Reality warped and folded like fabric being manipulated by invisible hands. Then suddenly a massive ship materialized out of nothing. It was enormous, much larger than the research vessel. Its hull was sleek and dark and covered with strange markings. Weapon systems bristled along its sides. Power readings that made no sense flooded the Zephyrian instruments. The human ship looked like nothing Veltar had ever seen. It was clearly built for war, but there was also something elegant about its design. It moved through space with perfect control and grace. The technology that allowed it to appear from nowhere was beyond his understanding. Stellar wind. This is the Dakota, came the human captain's voice again. We are extending our docking tube now. Prepare to receive assistance. Veltar looked around at his crew. They were all staring at the human warship with amazement and fear. In less than an hour, they had gone from certain death to rescue by a species they had never heard of using technology that should not exist. The humans had answered their call instantly, when no one else in the galaxy had even tried to help. Whatever these humans were, they had just changed everything Veltar thought. He knew about the universe. The docking tube connected to the stellar wind with a soft metallic sound. Commander Lisa Hayes stepped through the airlock first. Her boots made steady clicking sounds against the alien deck. Behind her came Sergeant Pete Williams and Medical Specialist Amy Rodriguez. They all wore dark blue uniforms with strange symbols on their shoulders. Their equipment looked advanced but compact. Everything they carried seemed designed for efficiency and speed. Lisa looked around the Zephyrian ship with professional interest. The walls curved in ways that human ships did not. Soft blue lights ran along the ceiling in patterns that reminded her of flowing water. The air smelled different too. Not bad, but definitely alien. She had read the basic files about Zephyrians, but seeing them in person was something new. Captain Veltar approached them slowly. He was tall and thin, with skin that looked like crystal. The surface reflected light and created small rainbows when he moved. His face was humanoid, but longer and more angular. When he spoke, his voice had a musical quality that the universal translator could not quite capture. "We are grateful for your help," Veltar said carefully. "But I must ask how your ship traveled so far so quickly. Our instruments detected no vessels in this region of space." Lisa exchanged a quick look with Pete. The truth about human technology was classified information. The displacement drive was experimental and the government did not want other species to know about it yet. But these aliens were dying and needed immediate help. "We have advanced propulsion systems," Lisa replied. "What matters right now is getting your people the medical attention they need." Amy was already moving through the ship with her medical scanner. The device beeped softly as it analyzed the Zephyrian crew members. Their biology was different from humans, but not completely alien. They breathed oxygen like humans did. Their blood was blue instead of red, but it served the same basic function. The main problem was oxygen deprivation combined with exposure to cold temperatures. "How long have you been without proper life support?" Amy asked as she began treating the navigator Kesson. 3 days, Kesson answered weakly. "The engines failed and we lost main power. Emergency systems have been running on backup energy cells." Amy nodded and started setting up portable oxygen generators. The human equipment was small but powerful. Each device could provide breathable air for several hours. She also had heating units that would warm the ship back to comfortable temperatures. Pete was examining the failed engine systems with Science Officer Morden. The Zephyrian engines used exotic matter to bend space around the ship. It was an elegant design but also fragile. Something had caused a cascade failure that shut down all the main systems at once. "Your engines are actually very sophisticated. Pete told Morden. "We might be able to get them running again with some modifications. Our engineering team has experience with exotic matter drives." Morden's crystalline features showed surprise. "You use exotic matter propulsion as well?" "Among other things," Pete said without giving away too much information. The truth was that human technology had developed in directions that most alien species had never imagined. Humans had learned to combine different technologies in creative ways. Lisa continued, moving through the ship and checking on the crew. Each Zephyrian she met showed the same reaction. First gratitude for the rescue, then confusion about how humans had arrived so quickly, then growing amazement at the advanced equipment the rescue team carried. The medical scanner Amy used could analyze alien biology in seconds. The portable generators provided perfect atmospheric conditions. The heating units warmed the ship more efficiently than the original Zephyrian systems. Everything the humans brought worked better than expected. "Commander Hayes," came Captain Jake Morrison's voice over the communication system. "How are the survivors?" "All 12 crew members are stable," Lisa reported. "Medical specialist Rodriguez has them on supplemental oxygen and warming protocols. Sergeant Williams thinks he can get their engines working again with some help from our engineering team." "Understood. We are preparing to tow their vessel to the nearest council station. The stellar wind will be under our protection until they are safely delivered." Veltar listened to this conversation with growing wonder. These humans were not just rescuing his crew. They were offering to escort them all the way back to civilized space. No questions asked. No payment requested. They were helping simply because it was the right thing to do. "Captain Morrison," Veltar called out. "May I speak with you directly?" "Of course, Captain Veltar. I'm on my way to your ship." A few minutes later, Jake Morrison stepped through the docking tube. He was shorter than Veltar but moved with quiet confidence. His uniform was the same dark blue as his crew but with additional markings that showed his rank. When he spoke, his voice was calm and steady. "Captain Veltar, I am glad we could reach you in time. My crew tells me your people are going to be fine. Yes, thanks to your intervention, but I must know how this was possible. Your ship appeared from empty space in less than an hour. No known technology can accomplish such a feat." Jake considered his answer carefully. "Captain, we have developed some new propulsion methods. I cannot give you the technical details, but our ship can travel much faster than conventional drives allow. And you use this technology to rescue ships in distress?" "When we can," Jake replied. "Space is dangerous. No one should have to face it alone." Veltar studied the human captain's face. There was something about these beings that impressed him. They had incredible technology, but they used it to help others. They had arrived like warriors in a powerful warship, but they acted like healers and protectors. Amy finished her medical treatments and reported to Jake. "All the Zephyrians are stable, Captain. They should make a full recovery with proper rest and nutrition." Pete had been working with Morden in the engine room. "Captain Morrison, I think we can get their exotic matter drive running again. It will take about 6 hours of work, but the damage is not permanent." "Do it," Jake ordered. "We will escort them home under their own power if possible. That will be better for everyone." As the human crew worked to repair the stellar wind, Veltar watched them with growing respect. These were clearly military personnel, but they showed genuine care for his people. They worked efficiently without wasting time, but also took care to explain what they were doing. They treated the Zephyrians as equals, even though human technology was obviously far superior. Lisa Hayes noticed Veltar's thoughtful expression. "Captain, is something troubling you?" "I am trying to understand your people," Veltar replied honestly. "Your ship is clearly designed for combat. Your crew moves like soldiers, but you risk yourselves to save strangers. Why?" Lisa smiled. "Because that is what humans do, Captain. We help each other. We help anyone who needs help. It does not matter if they are human or alien, or someone we have never met before. When someone is in trouble, we answer the call." Veltar looked around at the human rescue team working to save his ship and his crew. In all his years traveling the galaxy, he had never encountered anything like this. Most species helped their own kind and ignored others. Some traded assistance for profit. A few formed alliances based on mutual benefit. But these humans seemed to operate by different rules. They had risked their own ship to rescue complete strangers. They were sharing advanced technology to repair alien engines. They were offering protection and escort services without asking for anything in return. For the first time since the engines, failed Veltar felt something other than despair. He felt hope. Not just hope for survival, but hope that maybe the galaxy was not as cold and empty as he had always believed. Maybe there were others out there who cared about more than just themselves. Maybe these mysterious humans represented something new and better in the universe. Admiral Curtis Black stood in the war room of the UHS Dakota and studied the holographic display that floated above the central table. The three-dimensional map showed star systems and shipping routes across this sector of the galaxy. Red markers indicated areas where ships had disappeared or been attacked. There were too many red markers for comfort. Commander Steve Parker pointed to several locations on the display. "Sir, we have confirmed reports of 3 more missing research vessels in the past month. All Galactic Council ships, all carrying advanced technology or scientific data." Curtis nodded grimly. At 60 years old, he had seen enough warfare to recognize the signs of a larger conflict brewing. The missing ships were not random accidents. Someone was targeting specific vessels for specific reasons. The pattern was too clear to ignore. Captain Jake Morrison entered the briefing room still wearing his rescue equipment. His uniform was wrinkled and he looked tired, but his eyes were alert. "Admiral, the Zephyrians are stable and their engines will be operational in a few hours. But Captain Veltar has been asking questions about our capabilities." "What kind of questions?" Curtis asked. "How we detected their distress call from so far away. How we traveled to their location so quickly. He knows our technology is far beyond what the Galactic Council possesses." Steve pulled up intelligence files on his personal datapad. "That could be a problem, sir. If the Council learns about our displacement drive technology, they will want access to it. They will also want to know why we have been operating in their territory without authorization." Curtis walked around the holographic display and examined the red markers more closely. Each one represented lives lost and technology stolen. The Galactic Council was aware of the problem, but their response had been typical bureaucracy. Committee meetings and diplomatic protests while more innocents died. "Show me the intelligence report on the hegemony," Curtis ordered. Steve activated. New files and the display changed to show a different region of space. This area was controlled by a militant species called the hegemony. They were reptilian humanoids who believed that might made right. Their society was built around conquest and domination. For the past year, they had been expanding their territory and attacking anyone who opposed them. "Our sources indicate the hegemony has been conducting the raids," Steve explained. "They are looking for specific technologies that could give them a military advantage. Quantum resonance research, exotic matter propulsion systems, advanced sensor arrays." Jake studied the display with interest. "And the Galactic Council is not stopping them?" "The Council moves slowly," Curtis replied with disgust in his voice. "They form committees to study the problem. They hold debates about proper diplomatic responses. Meanwhile, civilian ships keep disappearing, and innocent people keep dying. That is why Earth created the Phantom Fleet," Steve added. "Ships like the Dakota that can operate in the spaces between official policy. We do what needs to be done without waiting for permission." Curtis turned to face both officers. "Gentlemen, what I am about to tell you is classified at the highest levels. The Dakota is one of 12 experimental vessels equipped with prototype technology. Officially, we do not exist. Unofficially, we are humanity's answer to threats that the galactic community cannot or will not address." Jake absorbed this information. He had suspected that his ship was part of something larger, but the full scope was impressive. 12 ships with displacement drives could appear anywhere in the galaxy within hours. They could strike at enemies who thought they were safe. They could rescue victims who believed they were beyond help. "What are our current orders?" Jake asked. Curtis activated a new section of the display. It showed a region of space called the Kepler Void, where reality seemed unstable and sensor readings became unreliable. Intelligence has located the hegemony base of operations. They are using the void to hide their activities and launch raids on civilian shipping. The stellar wind was carrying quantum resonance research data, Steve explained. If the hegemony acquires that information, they could develop weapons capable of destabilizing entire star systems. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. Weapons that could destroy star systems would make the hegemony the most dangerous force in the galaxy. No species would be able to oppose them. How do we stop them? We hit them hard and fast before they can complete their research, Curtis replied. The Dakota will infiltrate the Kepler void and destroy the hegemony base. All traces of their work must be eliminated. Steve brought up technical specifications for the mission. Lieutenant Commander Kate Sullivan in engineering has been working on upgrades to our displacement drive. She believes we can micro-jump directly into enemy formations and engage multiple targets simultaneously. That sounds extremely dangerous, Jake observed. Everything we do is dangerous, Curtis said, but the alternative is worse. If we allow the hegemony to complete their weapons research, millions of innocent beings will die. Jake studied the mission parameters. The Kepler void was one of the most treacherous regions in known space. Dark matter storms raged constantly and made navigation nearly impossible. Sensor equipment malfunctioned. Communication systems failed. Ships that entered the void sometimes never came out again. Admiral, may I ask why humans are taking this responsibility? Jake said. We are not members of the Galactic Council. We have no official authority in this region of space. Curtis smiled grimly. That is exactly why it has to be us, Captain. The Council species are bound by treaties and diplomatic protocols. They cannot act without consensus and approval from dozens of member worlds. By the time they agree on a course of action, it will be too late. But humans are not bound by those agreements, Steve added. We can do what needs to be done without asking permission. We can take risks that political leaders would never approve. Jake understood. Humanity was still considered a young species by galactic standards. They had only achieved interstellar travel 200 years ago. Most alien races saw them as primitive newcomers who had not yet learned how civilized beings were supposed to behave. But that outsider status was also an advantage. Humans could act without worrying about political consequences or diplomatic fallout. They could make decisions based on what was right, instead of what was politically acceptable. There is something else, Curtis continued. Our intelligence sources have been compromised. The hegemony knows about human ships operating in this sector. They may be specifically targeting our vessels. How is that possible, Jake asked. The Dakota is equipped with the most advanced stealth systems ever developed. Stealth technology is only as good as the people who operate it, Steve replied. If the hegemony has inside information about our capabilities, they can plan countermeasures. Curtis deactivated the holographic display and turned to face his officers directly. Gentlemen, this mission is more than just stopping enemy raids. This is about establishing humanity's place in the galaxy. We have a choice. We can hide behind our borders and let others fight their own battles. Or we can step forward and take responsibility for protecting innocent life wherever we find it. Jake thought about Captain Veltar and his crew floating helplessly in the darkness of space. The Galactic Council had known about their distress call, but no Council ships had responded. Only the humans had answered immediately. Only humans had risked their own vessel to save complete strangers. When do we begin the mission? Jake asked. Immediately, Curtis replied. Contact Lieutenant Commander Sullivan and tell her to prepare the displacement drive for combat operations. We are going into the Kepler void. As Jake left the briefing room, he reflected on what he had learned. The Dakota was not just a rescue ship. It was part of humanity's answer to a galaxy that seemed indifferent to suffering. While others debated and hesitated, humans acted. When someone called for help in the darkness, humans answered instantly, regardless of the cost or consequences. That was what made them different. That was what made them dangerous to enemies and valuable to friends. That was what would determine whether humanity remained isolated newcomers or became the leaders the Actier galaxy desperately needed. The Kepler void stretched before the UHS Dakota like a wound in space itself. Dark matter storms raged across the region, creating twisted patterns of energy that made reality bend and shift. Stars appeared and disappeared behind clouds of exotic particles. Sensor readings flickered and changed from moment to moment. Navigation required constant adjustment as space itself seemed to move and flow like a living thing. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge and watched the main view screen, with fascination and concern. In 30 years of space travel, he had never seen anything like the void. It was beautiful in a terrifying way. Colors that had no names swirled through the darkness. Gravity wells formed and collapsed without warning. Time itself seemed to move, differently in some areas. Navigation Officer Ben Carter worked steadily at his station, trying to plot a course through the chaos. His instruments gave conflicting readings from minute to minute. Captain, the gravitational fields are constantly shifting. I am having to recalculate our route every few kilometers. Take your time, Ben, Jake replied. Accuracy is more important than speed right now. At the sensor station, Megan Foster was doing her best to scan for enemy ships, but the void made her job nearly impossible. Sir, the dark matter interference is blocking most of our long-range sensors. I can barely detect objects more than 1,000 kilometers away. Jake nodded. The hegemony had chosen their hiding place well. Any ships that entered the void were effectively blind and vulnerable. Normal military tactics would be useless in this environment. Success would depend on surprise and superior technology. Weapons specialist Danny Murphy ran continuous diagnostics on the Dakota's arsenal. The ship carried quantum torpedoes that existed partially outside normal space-time, particle beam weapons that could punch through any known shielding, defensive systems that could deflect or absorb most forms of attack, all of it untested in the unique conditions of the void. Captain, all weapon systems are operating within normal parameters, Danny reported. But I cannot predict how the exotic matter fields will affect our targeting systems. We will adapt as needed, Jake said confidently. Alert all departments that we are approaching the estimated location of the enemy base. From the engineering section, Lieutenant Commander Kate Sullivan's voice came over the communication system. Captain, the displacement drive is charged and ready. We can micro-jump on your command, but I must warn you that the space-time distortions in the void could affect our accuracy. Jake considered the risks. Micro-jumping directly into an enemy formation was dangerous under the best circumstances. Doing it in a region where space itself was unstable added layers of complexity that could easily result in disaster. But conventional attack patterns would never work against 7 hegemony cruisers. Contact, Megan called out suddenly. Multiple signatures bearing 27 Mark IV. Configuration matches hegemony attack cruisers. Jake moved to the tactical display and studied the readings. 7 enemy ships arranged in a defensive formation around what appeared to be a mobile research platform. The platform was enormous, easily 10 times larger than the Dakota, bristling with weapons and defensive systems. How many ships, Megan? Jake asked. 7 cruisers confirmed. Each one is roughly the same size as the Dakota. The research platform appears to be heavily armed as well. Jake felt his pulse quicken. 7-to-1 odds would have seemed impossible to most military commanders, but the Dakota was not an ordinary ship, and her crew was trained for exactly this kind of mission. Danny, I want targeting solutions on all 7 ships. Priority targets are their weapon systems and engines. Megan, find me their command vessel. Sir, Ben interrupted. We are receiving a transmission from the research platform. It appears to be from Captain Veltar. Jake stared at the navigation officer in surprise. Captain Veltar is here? Put it on the main screen. The view screen flickered and displayed the interior of what looked like a prison cell. Captain Veltar was bound with energy restraints and his crystalline skin showed signs of damage. Behind him stood a tall reptilian figure in hegemony military uniform. The alien's scales were dark green, and his eyes glowed with predatory intelligence. Humans, Veltar managed to say before the hegemony officer struck him across the face. They seek the quantum resonance data. They know of your ships. The transmission cut off abruptly, but Jake had seen enough. The hegemony had not only captured the Zephyrian research vessel, but they were torturing the crew for information. They also knew about human operations in the sector, which meant intelligence had been compromised at the highest levels. All hands. Battle stations. Jake announced over the ship-wide communication system. Prepare for immediate combat operations. Red alert lights began flashing throughout the Dakota. Crew members ran to their assigned positions. Emergency bulkheads sealed. Automatically, the ship transformed from exploration vessel to instrument of war in less than 2 minutes. Kate, are you ready for micro-jump operations? Jake called to engineering. Displacement drive is fully charged, Captain. We can appear anywhere within 10,000 kilometers of our current position. Jake studied the tactical display one more time. The enemy ships were arranged in a perfect defensive formation. Their weapons were trained on all approach vectors. Under normal circumstances, attacking such a formation would be suicide. But the Dakota could appear in the middle of enemy formation faster than they could react. Human weapons could target multiple ships simultaneously. Most importantly, the enemy would not expect humans to risk everything to save alien prisoners. Danny, prepare for simultaneous engagement of all targets. Pattern Delta 7. I want maximum damage in the first salvo. Targeting systems locked on all 7 cruisers, Captain. Quantum torpedoes armed and ready. Ben, plot micro-jump coordinates to put us in the center of their formation. Distance 500 meters from the nearest enemy vessel. Coordinates calculated and loaded, Captain. Jake took a deep breath and settled into his command chair. Everything depended on the next few seconds. If the displacement drive functioned properly, they would have the advantage of complete surprise. If something went wrong, they would appear directly in the crossfire of 7 enemy ships. All stations report ready, he announced. Navigation ready, weapons ready, engineering ready, sensors ready. Jake looked around the bridge at his crew. These were the best officers in the human fleet. They had trained for years to operate the most advanced technology humanity had ever produced. They were about to find out if all that preparation was enough. Execute micro-jump, Jake ordered. Space twisted and folded around the Dakota. Reality bent like heated metal. For a fraction of a second, the ship existed in multiple locations simultaneously. Then the displacement drive engaged fully, and the Dakota vanished from its original position. The ship reappeared in the exact center of the hegemony formation, traveling at full combat speed. Every weapon system fired at once. Quantum torpedoes streaked toward their targets while particle beams lanced through space with deadly precision. 2 hegemony cruisers exploded immediately as human weapons found their reactors. A third ship lost its engines and began spinning, helplessly through space. The remaining 4 vessels returned fire, but their shots went wide as their crews struggled to react to the impossible attack. Direct hits on targets 1, 2, and 3, Danny reported. Targets 4 through 7 are maneuvering to engage. Kate, prepare for second micro-jump, Jake ordered. Put us behind the enemy flagship. The Dakota vanished again and reappeared behind the largest hegemony cruiser. This time the human weapons targeted the ship's command structure and communication arrays. The enemy flagship shuddered under the assault and began venting atmosphere from multiple hull breaches. Displacement drive ready for third jump, Captain, Kate called from engineering. Execute pattern Gamma. Take us to the research platform. Once again, space folded around the Dakota. This time the ship appeared directly alongside the massive hegemony research facility. The platform's weapons tried to track the human vessel, but the Dakota was too fast and too maneuverable. Megan, scan for life signs aboard that platform, Jake ordered. I want to know where they are holding the prisoners. Sir, I am detecting multiple Zephyrian life signs in Section 7 of the platform. There also appear to be other alien species being held in the same area. Jake felt anger building in his chest. The hegemony was not just torturing Captain Veltar. They were holding multiple groups of prisoners from different species. This was not just about stealing technology. This was about systematic cruelty and domination. Prepare boarding parties, Jake announced. We are going to rescue every prisoner on that platform. Space erupted in brilliant flashes of light as the Dakota's weapons found their targets. The remaining hegemony cruisers tried to coordinate their attack, but human technology proved superior in every way. Quantum torpedoes phased through enemy shields as if they did not exist. Particle beams carved through armor plating like cutting tools through paper. The displacement drive allowed the Dakota to appear and disappear faster than enemy gunners could track their target. Captain Jake Morrison watched the tactical display as another hegemony cruiser broke apart under concentrated fire. Danny status. Report on remaining enemy vessels. 2 cruisers destroyed, 3 more heavily damaged and withdrawing from combat. The flagship is still operational, but their weapon systems are offline. What about the research platform? Jake asked. Weapons specialist Danny Murphy checked his targeting systems. The platform has heavy defensive shields but no offensive weapons. They are using the remaining cruisers as protection. Commander Lisa Hayes' voice came over the communication system from the docking bay. Captain boarding party is ready. We have cutting tools and heavy weapons to breach the enemy platform. Jake studied the tactical situation. The hegemony forces were in complete disarray. Their perfect defensive formation had been shattered by human technology they could not understand or counter. But the mission was not complete until every prisoner was rescued and the enemy research was destroyed. Lisa, you have authorization for boarding operations. Priority is rescuing prisoners. Secondary objective is destroying all research data related to quantum resonance weapons. Understood, sir. Boarding party launching now. The Dakota extended a boarding tube toward the massive research platform while continuing to engage the remaining enemy ships. The human vessel moved with impossible grace through the chaotic battlefield. Every maneuver was calculated to maximum effect while minimizing risk to the rescue operation. Lisa led her team through the boarding tube and into the hegemony platform. The interior was dark and filled with strange smells. Reptilian architecture created corridors that curved in uncomfortable ways. Emergency lighting cast eerie shadows on the walls. The sound of battle could be heard through the hull as the Dakota continued fighting outside. Sergeant Pete Williams carried heavy assault weapons designed to punch through alien armor. Medical specialist Amy Rodriguez had equipment for treating multiple species of injured prisoners. Technical specialist Tony Garcia brought tools for accessing and destroying enemy computer systems. Megan, guide us to the prisoner holding areas. Lisa spoke into her communicator. Take the main corridor forward 50 meters, then turn left. Came Megan Foster's voice from the Dakota's bridge. I am detecting 17 life signs in that section, multiple species. The boarding party moved through the platform with military precision. They encountered no resistance at first. The hegemony crew was apparently too busy trying to survive the battle outside to worry about internal security. But as they approached the prisoner area, armed guards appeared. The hegemony soldiers were large reptilian humanoids carrying energy weapons. Their armor was thick and their movements were aggressive. They opened fire as soon as they saw the human boarding party. Pete Williams responded with overwhelming firepower. His assault rifle fired depleted uranium rounds that shredded alien armor. Lisa used her sidearm with deadly accuracy while Tony provided covering fire with an automatic weapon. The engagement lasted less than 30 seconds before all the enemy guards were down. Prisoners secured, Lisa reported as they reached the holding cells. Captain Veltar was in the first cell looking weak but alive. His crystalline skin had lost much of its luster, but his eyes still showed intelligence and determination. In the other cells were members of several different alien species. All appeared to be from civilian research vessels or merchant ships. Amy immediately began medical treatment while Pete and Tony worked to open the electronic locks. Captain Veltar, can you hear me? This is Commander Hayes from the human vessel Dakota. Commander Hayes, Veltar replied weakly. I knew you would come. Your people do not abandon others to darkness. How many prisoners are being held here? Lisa asked. 17 in this section, but there may be others elsewhere on the platform. The hegemony has been collecting research personnel from many different ships. Tony Garcia had connected his equipment to the platform's computer system. Commander, I am detecting additional prisoner areas in sections 12 and 15. Also, finding massive amounts of research data related to quantum weaponry. How long to destroy all the data? Lisa asked. Give me 10 minutes to plant data bombs throughout their computer network. Everything will be wiped clean. Lisa activated her communicator. Captain Morrison, we have located the prisoners in Section 7. There may be additional captives in Sections 12 and 15. Also finding confirmation of quantum weapons research. Jake's voice came back immediately. Understood. Continue rescue operations. We will hold this position until all prisoners are recovered. Outside the platform, the battle continued to rage. The Dakota had destroyed 4 of the 7 hegemony cruisers and driven the others into full retreat. The enemy flagship was still functional, but completely outmatched. Its commander, General Thakmor, watched in horror as his fleet was systematically annihilated by a single human vessel. "What are these humans?" Thakmor demanded of his tactical officer. "How do they possess such technology?" "Unknown, General. Their ship appears and disappears at will. Our weapons cannot penetrate their defenses. Our sensors cannot track their movements." Thakmor had commanded hegemony fleets for 20 years. He had conquered dozens of worlds and defeated every enemy he had ever faced. But this was different. The humans fought with technology that seemed to violate the laws of physics. They moved through space like ghosts. They struck with the force of gods. On the Dakota's bridge, Jake monitored the rescue operation while keeping watch on the remaining enemy ships. "Megan, are you detecting any other hegemony vessels in the area?" "Negative, Captain. The 3 surviving cruisers are withdrawing at maximum speed. The flagship appears to be dead in space. Danny, maintain target. Lock on the flagship but hold fire. I want to give them a chance to surrender." Jake opened a communication channel to the enemy command ship. "Hegemony vessel, this is Captain Morrison of the UHS Dakota. Your fleet is destroyed and your base is under our control. Surrender now and your lives will be spared." General Thakmor's reptilian face appeared on the main screen. His expression showed a mixture of rage and fear. "Human, what gives you the right to interfere in hegemony operations? You have no authority in this region of space." "We give ourselves the right, General. When we find beings torturing innocent prisoners and developing weapons of mass destruction, we act. That is what humans do." "Your species is not part of the Galactic Council," Thakmor protested. "You have no legal standing to attack hegemony vessels." Jake smiled coldly. "General, we do not wait for legal permission to do what is right. We see evil and we stop it. We find victims and we save them. We discover threats to innocent life and we eliminate those threats. You cannot stop the hegemony forever." Thakmor snarled. "We are too powerful. We have too many ships." "Perhaps," Jake replied. "But today you learned something important. You learned that humans answer when innocents call for help. You learned that we have technology you cannot defeat. You learned that we will find you no matter where you hide." Lisa Hayes reported success from the boarding party. "Captain, all prisoners have been located and rescued. We found 23 beings from 7 different species. Technical specialist Garcia has destroyed all quantum weapons research. The platform is secure." "Excellent work, Commander. Return to the Dakota immediately. We are preparing to withdraw." As the boarding party returned to the human ship, Jake made his final communication to the hegemony general. "You have one chance, Thakmor. Withdraw your forces from this region and cease attacks on civilian vessels. If we detect any further raids, we will return with additional ships. Next time, we will not offer surrender terms." The communication channel closed and the Dakota began moving away from the destroyed research platform. The ship's displacement, drive charged for the journey back to human space. In less than 2 hours, they had completely destroyed a major enemy base and rescued dozens of prisoners. Captain Veltar recovered enough strength to visit the Dakota's bridge during the return journey. He found Jake Morrison studying star charts and planning their route home. "Captain Morrison, I must thank you again for saving my crew and all the other prisoners." "No thanks necessary, Captain. We help because that is who we are." Veltar looked around the bridge at the human crew working with quiet efficiency. "In all my years traveling the galaxy, I have never encountered beings like your species. You risk everything to help strangers. You fight impossible odds to protect the innocent. You answer calls for help that no one else even hears." Jake turned to face the Zephyrian captain. "The galaxy is a dangerous place, Captain, full of beings who prey on the weak and helpless. Someone has to stand against them. Someone has to answer when victims call out in the darkness. And humans have chosen to be those who answer," Veltar observed. "That is correct, Captain. When someone needs help, we come. When evil threatens innocent life, we fight.